How do you live a life that is significant without striving, meaningful in the mundane, and overcomes in spite of obstacles? Welcome to The Conversation, the Significant Life podcast with Jen and Marcus Jones.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Significant Life podcast. I'm Marcus. This is Jen. And we are super glad that you're here today. Just spend some time with us, and you are in store for a really cool conversation with one of our favorite people. But before we get into that whole thing, we just are super glad that you've chosen to plug in, listen in on the conversation, and actually lean in toward building a significant life. And there, in our opinion, there is no greater pursuit than to really lean into who we really are, and then to see our identity that has like serious foundation, then go into the world and make a big impact in the lives of other people. And so we're just really glad that you're here today.
Yeah, so we want to have a conversation with someone who makes an international impact, honestly. His name is Brodie Pierson, and Brodie is coming to us today from Canada, but on any given day of the week, you might find him in Europe. You might find him in Newport Beach, California. You might find him in Scottsdale, Arizona. I mean, he really does have broad reach, and he has built an incredible business and multiple businesses and a brand, and honestly just is someone who's making a huge difference in this world and beyond that for the kingdom as a Christian business leader. And so let me just read a little bit about him so you know who you're hearing from. Brodie's an international leader in personal branding. That's actually how I first was introduced to Brodie. I hired him to help me a little bit with my systems to be more effective with my brand and the way that I was serving people and showing up in the world. And so he is a pro in personal branding and digital marketing strategy. And here's the deal. At the age of 19, he launched his brand agency where he has traveled all over Europe, United States, and Canada. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, because actually he lives in Canada some of the time because he's all over the world. But home is Canada. And he has been on multiple platforms creating brand strategies for New York Times bestsellers, TEDx speakers, top-rated podcasters, and hundreds of thought leaders around the world. Honestly, I think, Brodie, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think you are a thought leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's awesome that you have helped others with their thoughts, like people like Marcus and I, but it's because you are an incredible thought leader. So, Brodie, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, our favorite Canadian, Brodie Pierson.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much. And first off, I just want to say I'm so grateful for both of you and who you guys are and how you show up in the world and how you have been able to just create such a significant life with you and your family. I always tell people every time, you guys are some of my favorite family, right? It's like your family reminds me of how I was brought up and how myself and my 4 sisters. And so I just think it's such a cool God connection that we have, but we also love to build businesses and make impact. So I'm just pumped for this conversation.
Well, I love that you shared that you are one of 5, 4 sisters and Brodie. And so I have 4 kids, and we do resonate on that level a little bit. I probably really need to connect with your mom because she's done an incredible job, and I would love to know more about what she did to create such amazing young people with a house of 5. But let's just start there. Would you just share, because it's very interesting, the upbringing that you had in Canada and what that looked like for you in your home and community? Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I grew up on a 7,000 acre ranch up in Canada. So the closest grocery store to our family, 45 minutes away. In the way that we were brought up, our school, from kindergarten to grade 12, there's 60 kids total. So it's a really rural area. But I actually think that has been one of my biggest advantages, because out here, you learn how to create. Out here, you learn how to problem solve. Out here, you learn how to connect with the people that are in your area. There's not a lot of us, but you learn how to adapt to multiple different people and multiple different backgrounds. And so for me, we always grew up working on the ranch from a really, really young age. And that is really where I learned how to work hard. If I've learned anything from the ranch, it's the ability of I know how to work hard and for whatever it is that you want to achieve. And that is something that both of my parents really instilled in all 5 kids, is really understanding the power of hard work, showing up with integrity and keeping your word, and doing it with energy and passion. And I think for me, all of those things have led into all of my business ventures. And I always say to people, people are like, how are you able to build what you're able to build? And I always just say it goes back to really wanting to help people, helping out people with no expectation of anything back, and really working hard and showing up every single day. And so that's the way I grew up, which has led me into the most amazing life that I've been able to live so far in in my 26 years on this world.
Wow. Okay. I love that. It does cause my mind to wander a little bit into this rural space, 7,000 acres, working the farm, like imagining what that was like. Kind of, it sounds
yeah, and you honestly, you have to go follow Brodie on Instagram and like get the pics and like see what he's actually talking about.
Oh yeah, because he shows the
you gotta see it. I mean, it's like so epic.
It is, but it also, even seeing the photos, there is an element of that's like kind of isolating. Even I don't think that you felt isolated because of the way that your family cultivated home, but even your school. I mean, how many people actually attended your school?
60
total.
60 total, 60 kindergarten to grade 12. So I was there was 2 of us in my class. And then at one point it was just myself. So like, no, you had to make friends with people who are in grade 5 and people who are in grade 12.
Okay. And I'm hearing that served you well. It caused you to have strong work ethic. It caused you to like have to try to like figure it out and be like for you, and you became innovative in how to connect and who to connect with. And it instilled an integrity, as you described, like probably some work hard, play hard. I'm sure there were places to play, but it was just like, as a kid, get creative in how you play, because it's not access to things like that my kids have access to living in the city. It's like there's so much to do. It's almost like overwhelming that they're never really bored. And so I'm curious, because as a mom of kids, 4 kids, it feels like that could go either way. It could either cause someone to figure it out like you did and be innovative and learn how to connect with the outside world, or stay isolated and not know how to dream because your world is so small and not be able to have expanded thinking. So what in the world, as a mom, I want to know what was cultivated in your home that enabled you, that propelled you and your sisters forward in their passions and pursuing their dreams, because it did not limit you. Being rural, being in a small town, not being connected to a lot of people, not having access to a lot of things actually expanded your world. It did not limit it. So can you tell me like where that came from and what was cultivated in your home to create that?
Of course. Yeah. So here's what I always believe. And if anybody is from a rural area or a smaller town listening to this, it is actually one of your biggest advantages that you have to be able to learn how to cultivate a strong community. Because if you can do it locally, you can do it online. And so from a very young age, our parents had an expectation of us to always be connecting with people, number one, but also number two, to have our own passions. And so I believe that no matter if you're rural or if you're urban or wherever it is that you live in the world, the expectation that our parents had with us is each and every single one of you have things that you're passionate about. My sisters are very passionate about horses. So they're world champions in what they do. Myself and 2 of my other sisters, we're more passionate about business and leadership and creating. So each single one of us had our own passions. And so what our parents really instilled in us is whatever it is that you choose, you can build a career out of whatever it is that you're passionate about. And I think that is not discussed often enough. And so what they did to encourage us was they gave us the opportunity to explore those passions, explore those things, even if they were a 45-minute drive away. And when we were committed to that passion, we had exercises. we were committed to activities that helped us further along. And so I think for us, when our parents seen that we were passionate about something, they gave us that opportunity, number one. But also, number two, when things didn't go our way and things got difficult, they didn't let us quit. And I think too often nowadays, in what I see in the world, is when things get hard, parents let their kids quit. And from my perspective of what we are able to build is, we had the expectation that you're allowed to explore your passions, but if you're committed to something, whether that's a year or whether it's 2 years, whatever that looks like for you, you are committed and you're going all in. And I think that those skills and that skill set was imparted to us. Now with anything that we do, whether it is a new business, whether it's creating a new foundation, whatever it is that we do, we go all in and we say, we're committed to seeing this through with however long it's going to take. And I think for all of myself and all of my sisters, that is why we have the success that we do today, is because of that.
Okay, so that is super good.
That sounds parenting advice from a 26-year-old. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, and so one of the you mentioned your siblings, and we've had the privilege of getting to meet some of them, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that struck me about your relationship with your sisters is how close you guys are. There's a partnership. There's a rooting for one another. There's we're in this not only like together. I'm not saying that you guys necessarily all have like you said, you have divergent experiences and passions. But one of the things that struck me, Brodie, was how, as siblings, you guys are for one another,
championing each other.
Can you talk a little bit about what that relationship, maybe how it started, how it's evolved over time? But how do we get there in creating a home that really celebrates and supports? And what's been your experience with such divergent passions and interests and that kind of stuff with your siblings?
Yeah, I love this question. And I've actually no one's ever asked me this question before. And it's actually one of the major reasons why our family is the way that we are and we have the success that we do. Because from a young age, our parents always fostered that when one of us wins in our family, all of us win. And so we create a culture of celebration and encouragement when that happens. Or if something doesn't go that way, it's how do we get better for the next time? And so we would always be open of those conversations with our siblings of like, what went really well? What were the problems and challenges? And how do we go back and prepare for the next time? And so I just think from a really young age, we were always just taught to support each other. Being where we're from a rural age too, we grew up going to each sibling's activities. So I would go watch my sisters do their horse riding. I would go watch my other sisters play hockey. I'd go watch my other sisters do their speaking gigs, whatever that is. And so growing up, my sisters and I, we all sat down and were like, no matter whatever it is that we choose, let's always be each other's number one fan. Why not? We're family. We're their closest knit people. And let's make that an agreement of we're always going to celebrate and be happy for each other. So it started at a young age, but then also as we're getting 18, 25, 35, some people are getting married in our family. It's just this agreement now that we have together where we talked about it, like, let's celebrate each other. Why not? Your win is my win. And so that's how we view everything in our family. And I also think that's also too why people love to be around our family, because we're always so positive and encouraging. Because why not go build a significant life, right? No matter where you are, what it is that you're doing, encourage people. And if we could do that more, starting first off in the home, imagine what happens around the people. That's what brings in a good knit group of people. And that's when people really want to be around you. And so celebrate people. That's I think it's such a culture just to live by.
Absolutely. And one of the things that okay, so now my experience also with you as a businessman in the work that you have done, perhaps one of the most like impressive distinctives that I've noticed about you, now that you've described how you celebrate and you root for and you, like, their win is my win with your family, I've seen you actually have that value moving forward in business with other
Yes,
people.
it is.
It's not just about your siblings now. I talk a little bit about what that is like and how that mentality then shifted into your adult life. Now you spend a lot of time working outside of your nuclear family, obviously, as any adult would. How has what your upbringing brought to you and those things, now how have you incorporated that, and now that's a part of your core value when you're working with other people?
I think one of the most important skills that anybody can have is if you can learn the skill of encouraging people into their gifts, you will win in no matter what you do. And I think that's one of the biggest things of leadership is understanding and looking for what are people passionate about, what lights people up. And when you see that, instead of going to judgment, going into how can I encourage them even further, whether that's with just a word of affirmation, whether that's with a connection, whether that's with a, hey, I'll share this, whatever that looks like. And so I think something that I've learned that first off, one of my superpowers is just positivity and encouragement. But I believe everybody can have that because it's just a mindset shift. Is there's power and potential and opportunity in every single person. And oftentimes people don't get told that enough. What if you were the person that encouraged that person to take that next step in whatever it is? You never know where just one word of encouragement is going to do for someone or where it's going to lead them to. I've seen people, I lead people every single day in all my companies that I run. And just even small words of encouragement and what it does in even 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now, you'd be surprised what planting that one little seed does. And so I just think if everybody went around and just said one encouraging thing to at least one person every single day, imagine what that would do for not only that person, but for the communities that they lead.
I love it. And I have been the recipient of it. I'm telling you that I've been working with you since 2021. So a few years, late 2020, a few years now, enough time to know that every time I engage with you, I might walk into the conversation with questions about my system or how to make this particular business model that I'm, launching more effective, or how to be more effective with what's already in my hands. And every conversation I get off going like, I can do it. Well, I can do this. And in fact, so much so that, you've helped me launch things that I personally desired in my heart, but was uncertain that I had what it took or knew what to do. And you're incredible at implementing the what to do. Like you're very smart. Like you're a thinker. You're a thought provoking. Like you're a big thinker. But then you also, it's like your positivity is contagious to where I remember our first call, hanging up and telling Marcus, like, this is what I'm doing and I can do it and it's going to be amazing. And we're launching it yesterday because I'm so excited about it now because Brodie said. And then it also has caused me to refer a ton of people to you because yes, it works. The way that you lead and the systems and the strategies that you put in place for people are effective and they actually do work and they actually produce results. It works. But the feeling that is cultivated when working with you it's just next level. And it is empowering and it's exciting. And I love that you called it a skill, that encouragement, you call it a skill. We are all people of faith. All three of us love Jesus and we seek to follow his way and live our lives according to his word. And sometimes I grew up in the Christian church, and encouragement can be considered like a gift. Like, well, some people just have the gift of encouragement, which is accurate. Like that is true. There is the gift of encouragement that some people, like, it's a motivational gift that is just dumped into them by the Holy Spirit. Yay. It might come easier for them. But I love that you called it a skill because I think we are all called to encourage one another. That means to pour courage. That is what you do. So can you share a little bit about how your faith has even impacted the way you lead in business and impacted your businesses?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things when I think of faith and when it comes to, your faith journey, and what does freedom look like? And I think these are questions that people always ask, like, how do I find freedom in my faith? For me, what always comes to mind, one of the first things, for two things, is love and joy. That's what I think Jesus is love and joy. And so anytime that I'm thinking, whether it's life and business, with my faith, with my relationships, is how do I bring love and joy into this situation? How do I bring love and joy into this podcast? How do I bring love and joy into this offer? How do I bring love and joy when I go speak on a stage? Whatever that looks like, wherever situation, I always before I walk into a room or I walk into a situation, is how do I bring love and joy? And so for me, I think that is really in the business world, as Christians, as people of faith, of when we're going into business, how can we approach people, situations, whatever it is that we're doing, with love and joy? And people, my number one thing that people always say to me is your energy, right? I like when I'm around you, I just feel love and joy. And again, I think that's what Jesus is, right? And that's the emulation of him. And so the cool thing is, I believe that we need more faith-filled people in the marketplace now more than ever. We need them to be building wealth. We need them to be generating, because guess what? If we're leading in the business marketplace with love and joy, guess what people are going to start asking you? Like, where do you get your energy? Where do you get your love? Where do you get your joy from? And you know how much that opens the door to talk about our faith with people who would never would have thought of that or asked about that before. And so that's what I think it's so important now more than ever, is we need to show up at such a high level, but also leading with love and joy, and people take notice, and people want to be around that, and people want to emulate that as well too. And so I think that opens up a whole new world of opportunity for marketplace ministry.
100%. So,
Good.
and I will just say from my own personal experience with you, Brodie, is that you live that out. The word that was coming to my mind as you were talking was the word intentional. Like, you showed up even today on today's podcast. How am I going to show up today, bring love and joy? But there's something in here that I want you to actually talk about, because what you're actually talking about is an intentionality to allow what's going on the inside to come out on the outside. Your significant impact is coming from who you are as you show up, not necessarily just by what you do when you show up. You're doing stuff, yeah. But can you talk with me a little bit about, like, because we talk about there's not a lot of that in the world, right? To steal Jen's book title, it is divinely different to do it in a different way, and to have a mindset that says, out of the outflow of who I am and my rooted identity in Christ, I'm now going to come with intentionality to live on the outside what's actually going on the inside. And of course, that has a circular effect that impacts what's going on the inside again. But like, because obviously business is going to be impacted by all kinds of stressors, pressures, you're in the people business, right? You're going to have, people that come at you and are not operating,
love, no joy.
not operating in integrity. They're, wanting to compromise their ethics or their choices are. Talk with me about, like, things that you have done as a Christian businessman that said, oh, okay, I've actually made some decisions, and I'm going to orient my life in a way that honors God in this marketplace ministry that you just described. What are the tangible things that you might speak to another business person that's out there listening, going like, man, I dig that. I want to show up I want to live like that on the outside. Put a little meat on the bones for me on how maybe I can specifically do that, in some ideas that Brodie's dropping.
Yeah, I love this. So first things first, I always go back to the root of everything. So what does God say about me, right? And so something that was really powerful that I actually learned from you guys, what I thought was really cool when it comes to having your family core values. And I think it's really, really cool that oftentimes people don't realize that you can actually create your own individual core values about what God says about you. And so I think something that's so powerful for every business owner to do is to create their own core values of how is it that I am going to operate, when times are going good. And then at times when I feel like the enemy is attacking me. And so those can be brought from the Bible, like I am this, I am love, I am joy, I lead with integrity. And you have those 5 to 10 core values that you operate. Again, you could do this for yourself. You can build it for your family. You can build it for your companies, and it can go all the way up. And so something that I really had to take some time to reflect on is having, what are my core values that I show up with every single day on the days that are good and the days that are not so good, right? And with that, I can always be reminded of my strength and what God has given me, because it's in the Word, right? And so I think that's something that has been so true to me. And wake up every single day and get into my head, into my heart with that of like, how am I going to lead today, right? You only get today once. And so how am I going to live those out based on what God says about me, but also how I want to show up in the world? And so for any faith-filled leader, what are your core values? Write those out if you don't know them. And then when situations come up, good and bad, how are you going to live those out? And think about situations, right? I think so often people don't realize you can actually visualize situations that are going to come, and you can kind of see things that, there's going to be someone who says stuff about you. What does God say about you? There's going to be people who might be on your team that you have to lead that are going to be negative and gossip. Okay, if you lead with integrity, what do you say to those people right as they start doing that? Right. And so I think having those core values and then running them through situational analysis of things that could come your way each and every single day or in that quarter, in that month, and then having that kind of roadmap so you're already prepared. And so for me, that has been probably one of the most impactful things. And it allows you to lead every single day and be such a consistent leader because people know exactly what they're going to get.
Oh, that is so good.
100%.
And this is why I love working with you. And this is why I really do think anyone listening to this could probably this is so beneficial for, you've covered everything from how to have a healthy home and how to have a healthy business. And I would love for you to share like what's coming up for you and what offers you do have, because I know anyone listening to our podcast actually could benefit from the different businesses that you have, in one way or another. So
for sure.
It just, you need to work with Brodie in some capacity. I don't know what exactly you need from him, but there is something that he offers that is going to benefit you. So can you just, before we go here, where to find you and really what's coming up next that people can connect with to you?
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Well, so first things first, find me on social media at Brodie Pierson, BrodiePierson. And on there, I'm always talking about different programs, different things that I'm running. But one of my favorite ones that I love helping business owners with is I love helping them create systems. I think too often, so many business owners are going day to day and they don't have the right systems that allow you to scale and bring on more leads, more sales without having to work harder. And so I have amazing programs for that I run every couple of months. So if you want some info on that, just go over to my Instagram at Brodie Pierson and text me or send me the word significant. So I know that Jen and Marcus sent you. But other than that, that is my biggest thing. Go to the branded podcast. And for me, I just love to help people win. I love people to have fun in life, fun in business. And what an opportunity that we have right now to build and create. I keep saying to everyone, we live in such an incredible time right now. How cool is it that we have the opportunity to reach people all around the world from the power of social media, and that we can build and create anything. And so just know that wherever you are in the business season that you are, you just have such an opportunity. So make sure you take it and implement the right systems and getting around the right people that will help you grow and scale that mission.
It's super. Well, what you just said there at the very end is what I was going to just add at the end, is that it's very important who we get connected to and we do this life with. And I'm thinking about all the different times, how many different times either you got on a plane, we got on a plane, we got together, we were in the same spot, we worked together on a project, over and over and over again. Why? Because it matters who you work with. It matters the relationships that you build. Those connections are gold. Go after them, cultivate them, water them, protect them, because it's so vital that we do this life, whether it's, as you've referred to, whether it's in our families, in our work, in our personal mission and passions, that we do it with people that we can be trusted, that pour in value, that want us to win. There's a mutuality of that celebration of one another.
Yep.
It's powerful.
Yep.
And so thank you so much for who you've been in our life, for who you are being in the marketplace for so many tens of thousands of people that you're impacting, Brodie. It makes such a difference. And so thank you for living that life out loud, bro.
Yeah. So you can get connected to Brodie. Everything will be in the show notes, but definitely just start by following at Brodie Pierson on Instagram. Yeah.
Well, it's been great to have you on today, and thanks for listening to the Significant Life podcast today. You can always, find us on socials too, and there's stuff in the show notes and blah, blah, blah. But
it was a great time.
We are just loving it. And so thank you for being on here. Have a great day as you click off. Brodie, thanks again for being with us, bro.
Thanks. Love you guys.